Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Downtown Jason Brown, and welcome to a different kind of video. This is a video that's kind of formatted like my good friend DWall's Road to Saints Row series, which I highly recommend you all go check out on the DCA channel, especially with the announcement of the 5th Saints Row game. I think you're all going to enjoy his series, and knowing him, he's probably going to come up with more videos, more speculation, and overall thoughts. Now, what my video series is going to be about is on a game series that has pretty much been dormant for years. With that being the Sly Cooper franchise. Now, the last Sly Cooper game that came out was back in 2013 with Sly 4 Thieves in Time. Sly 4 was met with mixed reactions, and a lot of the negative reaction was very, very negative. So much so that after that game, Sony pretty much put the series on hold. Now, with the rumors that have been going around of a possible 5th title within the series, it makes you wonder, are they going to do a full reboot themselves, just like the Saints did? Or will it be a soft reboot and continue the franchise with a new Sly 4? This fifth game pretty much being what Sly 4 should have been. Now, in my opinion, what they need to do is a full reboot. Start from the beginning and work your way back up. Now, how I would do it would be like this. Sly 1, which is the one we'll be talking about today, will pretty much be similar in story to the original Sly 1. However, there will be some changes here and there, and even some additions. Now, of course, the main villains of the game will be, of course, the Fiendish Five, and the main plot line of the story being Sly trying to retrieve the missing pages of the Thievius Raccoonus. Now, a couple of additions I would do would be, one, perhaps Sly and the Sly Gang aren't the only, I would say, gang. Because I think one thing that Sly in his series has always, I guess, lacked would be a arch rival. Now, you can consider Carmelita being his arch rival, but I'm talking about in the thieving, field. Someone who also does thieving. Now, an idea that came to mind, which has actually been an idea that's been in my mind for the past 10 years, actually. Perhaps Sly has a sibling in this series. A sibling who did not receive the heritage, or will not be the one to get the book passed down to them, due to either being younger or perhaps not being the prodigy child that Sly is. Now, if this is an older sibling, I think that would really, really drive home the fact that, it's not the firstborn who gets it. It's that who give off hints that they will be a prodigy, just like Sly's father, his grandfather, and everyone before them. Because it has stated that there are, the forgotten Coopers within the series. The ones that really aren't talked about that much. And heck, some of those forgotten Coopers were perhaps siblings of the more famous Coopers. Yes, they had their, have their contributions, recognized within the book. However, they're not the most famous. And perhaps this sibling is going down that similar route, and he or she knows it. So, they are trying to do the same thing Sly is. But the sibling is doing it because he feels like he should be the rightful heir to the Cooper legacy. Now, this would be kind of interesting, seeing Sly pretty much race against his own sibling. I'm going to say brother, just to... because I keep slipping up between sibling and brother. I keep going back and forth. So from this point forward, when I talk about Sly's sibling, I will refer to a brother, just because that's how I would do it. Now, the brother of Sly and Sly just pretty much racing to get the pages would be an interesting aspect, and perhaps even create different story elements to the game to have that different replay value. Or what happens if Sly was the one who got the first page, or what if his brother got the first page? Let there be two different endings to each level, one being where the sibling gets the page and one where Sly gets the page, just so the story could take different routes. Now, in the end, the brothers will end up coming together to help each other, defeat Clockwork. And perhaps even throwing a twist element that the brothers gang were actually just working for Clockwork the entire time, and we're just waiting for the right moment to betray Sly's brother. Thus, creating that dynamic of the two Cooper brothers teaming up in the end. And pretty much adding a fourth member to the gang. Now, how the brother would play differently than Sly would be, his skills are not on par with Sly. Sly is the prodigy child. Sly is the one with the gifted abilities and everything like that. However, his brother would be good with hand-to-hand combat. Perhaps his brother is skilled in multiple variants of combat, and also has his own unique way of sneaking. But he does not sneak as well as Sly, where Sly can easily get around people in very tight-knit situations. His brother finds difficulty in that. And perhaps that can even also play into his gameplay if they want to make the brother like a playable character. Instead of him just being like an exact clone of Sly, have it where both brothers have weaknesses and strengths. Sly not as skilled when it comes to combat as the older brother, whereas the older brother isn't as sneaky or agile as Sly. Now, that's just, something I've always wanted to add to the series. It's just that feeling of going up against a rival that isn't Carmelita. Now, speaking of Carmelita, yes, she stays Sly's romantic interest. But one thing I would like to see different is have her be just as flirtatious with Sly as Sly is with her. If anything, have it where they both know that the other likes the other. However, but they both know that with their two different paths in life, one being criminal and the other one being law enforcement, they just know that it would be extremely hard to make it work. And you could see that, have that be a struggle with their emotions. That they both really, really want to be with each other. However, as long as Sly is a thief, they just can't be together. You can even have it where Carmelita even gives Sly ultimatums during the story. Have him, turn himself in, and she can convince, Interpol to drop all charges. Perhaps have him become a special operative for Interpol, because who else can catch a thief better than another thief? But Sly still has. Sly, he denies it because he has to, in his mind, continue on his family's legacy. Or else, pouring his contribution to the legacy. And maybe one day they can be together. However, for right now, they can't be. But with this, have it where they sometimes will have these flirtatious battle of wits, and sometimes Carmelita comes out on top. Sometimes Sly comes up on top. Have it where, they will use their flirtiness to get the other one to drop their guard. To, either for Sly to make his escape or for Carmelita to try to make the arrest. I think that would be something very interesting and a new element to really add to the series. Yeah, I get it. Carmelita, she's supposed to be super serious. But I think letting her be a little bit more chillaxed and letting her play Sly's game would be kind of interesting and probably would make some hilarious dynamics and scenes between the two. Now, a change I would make would go to the main villain of the game, that being Clockwork. Because there's one element of the original series that kind of confused me. Because if you looked at the opening scene, no matter if it's the American cutscene or the Japanese cutscene, which, good God, I love the Japanese cutscenes. But if you look at the cutscenes at the beginning, something that's just very, very strange. It shows Clockwork being able to fit inside Sly's family's home. But when you go on to fight him, the guy is like the size of a building himself. How in the world was he able to fit inside? Perhaps he was outside and the gang, the Fiendish Five threw Connor outside, for Clockwork to give the killing blow. Now, what I would do is have Clockwork be more anthropomorphic. Have him be, more of an intro owl. Maybe in a business suit. Monocle and stuff like that. Have him be very posh. But also show that he has cybernetic parts to him. To show that he is older than he looks. That his main goal, apart from, destroying, the Cooper legacy, is to be immortal. And perhaps another element that's like in the background and that we get hints at is that Clockwork is making his perfect permanent immortal body, which is that giant owl that you end up fighting in the end. Kind of similar to the elements of Sly 2, where, Arpeggio is trying to collect the Clockwork parts, to infuse his consciousness with the Clockwork body. I think it would be kind of interesting to see it like this in Sly 1, is that we see elements in the background of each level that we see different, maybe like in cutscenes, we see like different parts of the Clockwork body being shipped to Clockwork himself as it's being built in individual places, because each member has a specialty team that can, make the perfect limb for each specific type of thing that Clockwork needs for his immortal body. In the end, when you confront the anthropomorphic Clockwork, or the cybernetic anthropomorphic Clockwork, that's when he enters his new body, and that's when you can start the final boss battle. Now, another thing I would change would be the gameplay. Sly 1, as iconic as it is that traditional linear almost Crash Bandicoot type of game, where it's not really open world. The series didn't really become open world until the second game. And pretty much, I think they need to do that with this one. Have it be more sandboxy. Have it be like the other games where there's objectives and stuff like that you have to do in different parts, and that but you can explore the entire region. And maybe even doing something a little bit different. Maybe adding side stories, side quests to really open up the world. Introduce new characters that, you interact in these different side stories. Because as important as the main story is, now it sounds like I'm trying to make Sly Cooper into an RPG, but I just like the idea of perhaps there's more going on. Perhaps, side quests that end up affecting how the story plays out. Like, you could play the game, like, straightforward with the main story, but with these side stories, it can help you towards the end. Like, help, get new skills for Sly, Murray, and Bentley. Perhaps make new allies on the way. Building up towards that final battle. How do you want to do that final battle? Do you want to do it just, the standard story, just following the main story, or having elements from side stories that help you, fight Clockwork? But these are just some ideas. Tell me what you think in the comments section below. If you all like this, I'll make another one. Go into more detail on the other members of the Fiendish Five, and perhaps even what I would do for the sequel. But anyways, this has been Downtown Jason Brown, and I hope you all enjoyed this. Take care.